Hi. Welcome to How Now. And we have a special guest, Yéga, on here, a fashion illustrator.
Hello.
And just as an introduction to How Now, this is a podcast and YouTube channel that's focused on sharing stories of successful African creatives, and with the aim of entertaining and inspiring people to, to learn and follow their dreams as well. So we're delighted to have Yéga here, who's a lovely human being and a
Happy to
very
be here.
talented person. So thank you very much for joining. And how's everything going for you so far?
Going really well. Happy to be here. It's always great to talk to people that, have a similar love for the creative industry and all things, art. So happy to be on the podcast. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, great. No, thank you. And you're just to give us some introduction about you. You're a fashion illustrator, and you have many wonderful clients, including am I right in thinking the Cultural Institute, VNA, La Douai,
Yeah.
and Chloe, perhaps I think
DVF,
DVF. Yes.
Maison La Durée, Paris, British Vogue, Vogue Arabia, Fashion Trust Arabia, which is this wonderful prize for up and coming designers in the Middle East. The Dubai Mall, Blisco, it's a great African brand I've worked with. So obviously, had quite a wide breadth. So
Yeah. And how long have you been doing this for?
it's coming up. I think it's going to be 10 years in December. So that's a huge milestone for me. I think starting out, if you'd asked me, would I be doing this 10 years from now? I probably would have said, I don't know. But here I am.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that 10th anniversary. It's a really important milestone for me.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. I'm very pleased for you. I know you've got some big things going up. I looked on your Instagram. I see you're doing something to do with Naomi Campbell's exhibition.
Very exciting. Yeah, I mean that's always a good one. I think the V&A is so they're really on a roll with their exhibitions lately. They have really, I think they've started a real cultural revolution where it's more about what people want to see rather than just a curator somewhere having an idea of, but when you're talking about the history of art, it puts a lot of people off because they're not really conversant with that sort of the educational side of it. They don't really know impressionism and post-impressionism and abstract art. But then if you center it in a way that seems really approachable, you're still teaching, you're still enriching culture, but it's bringing people into the museum. So Naomi Campbell is a really well-known name. But while you're there, you might look at the section on I don't know, maybe Buddhism and go in there and look at all the artwork that came from the East. And then you might go, oh my goodness, they have this whole section on African textiles. So I think they're really focusing on making everybody feel welcome at the museum. If you're Gen Z, you'll be welcome. If you're, I don't know, 70 plus and you're a retired person, you'll be welcome there. So there's a real breadth of lovely things going on. So I'm really happy to be doing that June next month. I think that's 22nd of June.
22nd June. And then for those people who don't know, the V&A is the Victorian Albert Museum.
Which
is,
acronyms.
Yes, which is a culture and art institute in London and one of the best museums for fashion, art and crafts in the world.
Definitely.
And yes, thank you for that. So you're going to be busy, and I'm very pleased in your 10th anniversary year as well to be doing Naomi Campbell. That's fantastic.
I mean,
so you're going to be teaching fashion illustration. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to talk about that later on. But I want to ask about your name because it's Yéga, and where's that from?
That's from my middle name. So my middle name literally sounds like Yéga when you shorten it, right? So I'm British Nigerian. So when I was growing up, a lot of my friends would just call me Yéga. And also, I think it was a play on that brand. There's I don't know if it was like an alcohol brand. Like a Jaeger bomb. I am a very full-on personality, so a lot of them just call me Yéga, and it stuck. It just really stuck. And Irene sort of has taken the back seat. A lot of people, friends, business, my artistic personality as well. Yéga is just what seems really natural to me. And I love the fact that it was part of my life before I became an artist. So it's not like I just pulled it out of a hat.
Right.
But it's very hard to pronounce. A lot of people don't know how to pronounce it. So it's like yay and gas. Why literally YAY hyphen GAH. So people are able to sort of pronounce it when I do tell them. But everybody still kind of goes, oh, what's that from? So I like that. It's a nice icebreaker.
Yeah. So it's Yéga.
Yéga. Yes.
Yéga. Okay. It's beautiful. I like it. It's so original.
Thank you.
So, I mean, you're doing fashion illustration. So I'm just wondering, where does your love for art and fashion come from, originally?
To be honest, I think it comes from the culture I'm from. I think being Nigerian, you were surrounded by it. Weddings, I mean, even funerals. It was like a whole big thing. People would come dressed like somebody died. So it's like properly dressed to the nines.
It's a big party,
my mother
isn't it?
is a very stylish person. So I think being surrounded by the way we approach celebration is very fashion forward. And so growing up around that, it kind of stuck. The art part of it, I think, has to do with my heritage. So the tribe I'm from in Nigeria is called the Bini tribe, Bini. Mm-hmm. Those bronzes that we're always talking about repatriating the bronzes. So we have a very rich history, and we can trace our kings back to 1157, 59. All my Edo brothers and sisters out there, you can, fact check me. But it's a really, really long line of kings, and art is just part of it. Okay, so if it was the bronze carvings, if it was the culture, the way we record things, how elaborate everything is, even within the royal palaces, art and the Benin Kingdom is sort of hand in hand. You can't separate the two. And my father's line is also from the bronze casters. Women couldn't do bronze casting though. So even if I was there, I wouldn't be a bronze caster, but it's nice to know that it's sort of in my blood. My uncle's sculptor. He used to teach art at the San Francisco State University. So there's a lot of art in my family. I think that's where it comes from. Yeah.
It's a natural.
It's kind of part of the package.
But you didn't always start in art, did you?
Oh no. Yes, we had a few segues. And I think I never really saw art as my number one focus. I think I did have the white collar dream of powerful, corporate job, because all around me, my family members are very career driven people. So my dad worked in the stock exchange. He started businesses very early. He's also a lawyer. He's very clever. So I think just having siblings who were really in finance and investments, even now, I was the one kind of artsy one. So you just wanted to go, everybody's doing these really serious things. And growing up, nobody really tells you, go ahead, be an artist and that sort of thing. So I didn't really see those role models succeeding at art. And for me, success is very important. I was good at school. And so getting top grades was like it's just my natural competitive nature coming out. But in the area of art, it was very much like a hobby. It's something you just do because you can. But where do you take it from here? So my parents were quite liberal, but they weren't like, yes, we want you to be an artist. It was very much, you can do whatever you want, but make sure you're serious with school. So when it came to making choices, I decided, okay, let me try to be a lawyer because my dad's a lawyer. People tend to do that. Mom's a doctor. I'll be a doctor. That didn't really work out. I went into a law firm. I was like, yes, no, this is not for me. Then I studied marketing as well. Graduated. Marketing, I feel like it's part of life, isn't it? The whole branding thing. I loved it so much. Mm-hmm. But while I was doing all of these degrees, I was still sketching and drawing and getting into competitions and art prizes and things like that. And then I get married and my husband's like, look, you're always doing this thing. It'd be really nice if you just, maybe apart from me, let somebody else see it. And Instagram was just coming up at the time. So it was just, I think maybe a year or two after Instagram, because this is around about 2012, when he's like, you might want to put this on. But I didn't really take it seriously up until maybe 2013. And then I really got into business formally in 2014. So a big part of why I think I even took that step as an artist and really came back to what I really wanted to do was because I got a positive response from sharing my work. So I cannot emphasize that enough. And I think that's the beauty of the social media age.
Yeah. Wow, fantastic. Yeah, thanks for sharing that sort of journey. So, I was wondering, you decided to go into fashion illustration. And just for people to know, what exactly is fashion illustration?
Yeah, that's a really good question. When you say, you decided to go into fashion illustration, the truth is, I just always loved drawing fashion.
Right.
So I think even in my space, in the friendships that I had and the interests that I had, I never really considered or thought, oh, there's a job called fashion illustration, I'm going to go do that. I just drew what naturally interested me. Okay.
Right.
And it just happened to be dresses and clothes and people. And then later on finding out that, oh, wait, that's true. Because if I'm doing investigate, because I've always loved like fashion brands. I think in the back of my mind, being a designer would have been a lovely thing as well. So I used to watch video fashion growing up when we all thought we could be a fashion model. I used to watch video fashion. They used to talk about all the, like Bill Blass, Donna Karan. I really loved American fashion. I wasn't big on Parisian fashion. So I saw people sketching, clothes, and I would see all the ateliers and the workshops. It never occurred to me that, of course, that's a job. It's an integral part of the process. But again, social media. The fact that you start to see people doing it for a living, not for fun, but for a living, I think is when it really opened my eyes. And once I put my work online, because I was drawing fashion, the people who needed it naturally just flowed to me. I remember NYLA, it was a brand, that was my very first brand job. And they needed 10 sketches of their new collection. I think it was based on Egypt. And it was really lovely, like a Nubian story. And I couldn't believe that anybody would actually pay me to do it. But hey, so thank you NYLA, wherever you guys are.
All right. So you didn't even ask them? They just sort of saw your work and...
They just emailed me. They just the wonderful DM. They just sent me a message and then we got talking by email. And I very quickly had to put myself together and go, wow, okay, yeah, sure, why not? I do it normally on the daily, every day. So why wouldn't I do it for a check? And I think that's really what got me serious about the fact that, look, you have a skill. It is valuable and people will pay you to do what you love.
Okay, cool. Well, I guess that's a good tip for anybody then. Just do stuff on social media. Yeah. So in terms of the fashion illustration, you talked about, I was curious about your comment about you like American brands over French. What's the difference?
The funny thing is, it's not even so much of, I think, the difference, but I think my younger years very influenced my father's fashion. So my dad was a GQ enthusiast. And what I mean literally, even now in my family home, we have GQs from 92 stacked up. It's like literally, it's a gold mine for anybody who wants like vintage GQs. So I was very into men's fashion before, because I would read them when he's gone away. I'm like, yeah, I'll take that, swipe it and go to my room. I think my father and I were really bonded on that sort of thing. He's a very well-dressed man, even now, very, very fashion forward in his approach to things. So I think reading that, those were the names that jumped out. It was American GQ. It wasn't, I think the designers that stood out to me the most were the ones who were working and living at the time in America. So Lord Ralph Lauren and Tommy Hilfiger. And so those were the designers that stood out to me. And obviously later with curiosity, I did improve it or enlarge my understanding of it. But that was my first introduction to fashion, was men's fashion.
Okay.
US men's fashion, yeah.
Oh, wow, fantastic. It's interesting how people have different stories. And
I know. And that's why I'm still particular about like men's shoes and like their belts. It's still the first thing I look at. Honestly, so I think I'm even a bit more critical about men's fashion than I am about women's fashion.
Interesting. No, because looking at your Instagram, which is a beautiful account, it's very girly, it's very flowy. It's not as if you got those sort of structured, tailored look. So it's interesting to to hear that it was men's fashion that.
I know.
Yeah.
It interests you to know that there's very few illustrators who focus just on men's fashion. I cannot tell you why. There's no reason, but it is just a thing where a lot of what we know to be illustration, and we can talk about the greats, those who came before the camera was a thing, when illustration was essential. And you asked me, what is fashion illustration? Literally, it's interpreting the designer's idea in a visual way and putting it down on paper. So whoever the artisans, the seamstresses, the atelier staff can then say, right, that's what you want us to make. We're going to make it. Now, if you were a designer who could do your own thing, then you could bypass it, but then you could forget your idea. How many of us have had a business idea driving down to the supermarket and you're like, what was that brilliant idea I had? I forgot it. It's the same thing. If you're a designer and you see something, you see flowers or you see, a building, and it just gives you an idea. Fashion illustration is the visual language that helps you record that fashion idea. Okay. So they were necessary for communication within a fashion house. It wasn't a fluffy job you just had to have. It was really, really important. The same way an architect has plans, a designer has plans, and you need to put your plans on paper, especially when it's haute couture, because you have to literally have, where all the pleats and the drapes and everything's going to be. Now, there is the difference between fashion illustration for, aesthetic value, so the finished product, okay? And that's probably what you show to your clients in a lookbook.
Yeah.
But there is also fashion for construction. And even now, fashion illustrators are used with factories abroad. You get your tech packs and your garment flats, and they know where all the pleats and the buttons should be. It's a plan. So literally we're interpreters, except it's not French to English. It's, an idea in somebody's head to, those who will actually carry out the construction of the garment. And there's this quote by Grayson Perry that I really love, and I put it on the Fashion Illustration page, which is another outlet or a creative business that I love and I have. He basically said, until we can put a USB in our ears and then draw out all of the ideas that we have, drawing will be the best way to put those ideas in our minds on paper, and it's true. So that's literally what an illustrator, at the very, very core, the true sense of illustration, that's what it is. But there are many other angles you can use fashion illustration for in business. Yeah.
Okay, it's good to hear that it's an active career.
Oh yeah.
In the fashion world, as well as on the marketing side as well. So, which is, I think you do a lot of that for clients, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As well as teaching it.
As well as teaching it. So you see how varied it is, because some people are just hobbyists. They love the look of fashion illustration, but they're not designers and they're not using it for commercial reasons. I have. Very early in my career, I did create capsule collections for designers. I used to work with them, even remotely, which is a great thing about the time we live in. But most of my work has been for, the aesthetic side of it, the branding, advertising, lookbooks, packaging, whatever it is. Anything beautiful that you want to enhance, you can use fashion illustration for that as well. Even t-shirts. I mean, you see a lot of brands have printed tees. Fashion illustrators tend to be the ones who do that job at the end of the day, even though it's not purely like what they, maybe 60 years ago. I'm sure those illustrators, they could be in our time now. They would be shocked at what we were able to do, because they had a very, very, very tiny space to express themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's why for a long time, fashion illustration was seen as commercial, utilitarian. It wasn't fine art because it wasn't from your spirit. It wasn't from your ideation.
Yeah.
Literally, you were paid to draw a certain thing and you had to draw it just the way the designer or the fashion house or the magazine, because magazines were our first employers, really, because the first Vogue cover is an illustration because there were no cameras. So it's a really beautiful drawing. So if you're watching this, you can Google it and just look at the first Vogue cover, beautifully done in like graphite pencil or charcoals. Really, really beautiful to look at. That's really where the history of illustration is, from the commercial side, the side which is more utilitarian, and then now just so many expressions that we see.
Yeah, fantastic. Great answer. Thank you. So, how does one get into fashion illustration? Someone's watching you now and thinking, "Hey, I really want to do this." What would your
Good question.
tips? Is it a formal education, or is it a case of just getting some pen and pencil and?
I think everybody's journey is really different. I would be one of those people who would say, do not neglect an education if you can get it. But I think we're coming into a time where more and more, it's just not feasible for a lot of people. In the UK, some people can't afford to go to university. Are they going to abandon their dream of illustration because of that? No. For me, my path was very accidental. So I'd already had a few degrees before I fell into illustration. But I already had the natural talent for it, and I just learned along the way. I've more than done my 10,000 hours. Thank you very much. So I do have that confidence now. However, if I had done the, travel the way of a degree or going to a proper, art school, and we have so many amazing, amazing institutions teaching this art, I think I would have gotten a lot farther faster. Mm-hmm. So I would say to people, if you do want to do it. It's well worth it. Now, you can't just learn the skill of illustration, and this is answering your question. It's cute if you can draw.
Yeah.
Yay. But you will find out very quickly that is not really the job. The job is people management. The job is being able to see somebody's dream and make it your dream and really enjoy the process of working with people. Now, unless you're going to be some sort of illustrator, fine artist, where you just come out with, a 12-piece exhibition and you go somewhere to a museum, you're going to work with people every day. You work with art directors, creative directors. You work with museums and institutions. Then you might work with fashion brands. So it's very much a co-creative career. So if you don't have people skills, you don't know how to run a business, you don't know how to market yourself and say, here I am, I'm talented, book me. You will very quickly be broke or burn out just from sheer tiredness, and just kind of losing that spark for it, because there's so much more than just a drawing. And I think also when you do go to get a degree, they teach you all these other things to prepare you for the world of work. So I think that's why it's the mindset. When people just pull it out of their closet as a hobby, it tends to be very unprepared, very raw in its state. But when you do take the degree route, so I'm saying if you're in the West, there's lots of universities you could go to, which would have a very great start for you. But then if you're in Africa, it's not the same thing. Even right now, I would struggle to think of, really good art schools that you can go to for illustration. Mainly because when you think about African art, you think fine art, you think oil painting, sculptures. That's what we're famous for. We're still very much playing catch up when it comes to illustration. And that's my life's work, is to make sure that changes. Why? The African fashion industry is having a real renaissance, okay? There's a real boom. There's a real sense of this momentum. But then how can you have all these brands popping up but where's the fashion illustration? Where's the recording of all the things going on? Because people don't realize that illustrators are also recording history. Okay? And this is something I was talking about the Benin Kingdom. Those carvers weren't just carving, some sculpture for the sake of it. It was what the king would wear in different festivals, what the king would wear if somebody died, what the king would wear if he was being coronated. It literally is encapsulating culture and recorded history. And the reason why we can look back at the 1940s, the 1910s, 18 something, 17, whatever, is because there was an oil painter who painted the queen, and we know what they wore. We know Baroque fashion. We know. Do you understand what I mean? Yeah. It's recorded history before the camera. The camera really came and kind of knocked artists off their high and mighty stools, but it's still a really important job. And I think that's why it's important for it in Africa now to be pushed forward, because we're basically at the beginning stage. Before it becomes a real thing, we're in the room working with the designers. But right now, you probably, if you're in Africa, you wanted to become a fashion illustrator, I would say, upskill. Go on YouTube, go on Skillshare, Domestika. They're not paying us for this. They should be. For all these names I'm calling out. But you can find help everywhere, even a YouTube channel where they teach illustration, and just keep practicing and practicing. Get as many internships as you can, ask fashion brands to work with them. And before you know it, you'll be well on your way, and you'll at least have some clients who can rely on you. That's the way I'd say do it, by doing.
Yeah. Do you offer mentorship yourself?
I only started recently. I think when I was thinking about it was at the end of last year, I was thinking about not legacy, but oh wow, 10 years next year. Okay, fine. You've worked with some dream brands. I had my dreams at the beginning. Oh, it was really nice to work with Vogue. That happened, and all the other things. Then I thought to myself, okay, what about those who would want to do this and have no idea where to start? Because I've said it many times that illustration is very Western focused. Number one, when I started out in illustration, I couldn't find one female illustrator till I found out about Megan Hess. And definitely no black female illustrators. Not that they weren't there, but they're just not visible.
Yeah.
And I think the visibility is key. It's okay for you to be successful in your own little silo or your own little space, but it's so important that we can be seen, so those coming after and go, well, if Yéga did it, then I can do it. And so that's really what spurred on the mentoring. A lot of them are already amazing creatives. They're already doing great things. But I think it's, as I said, just the skills that they need, the little push. So I've been doing that for 5 months now. It ends the sixth session, because like half a year is next month, and we've just become like a little family. It's really good. And there's something I want to keep doing, because I think the mentoring will offset the problems with the structural, are there universities, are there schools, is this, is that. That's helping. And so I'm doing my bit.
Fantastic. And where are the mentees from?
A lot of them are based in Nigeria. There's also Ghana, Accra in Ghana. I'm hoping to widen it a little bit past West Africa.
Yeah.
I know South Africa would be great. And Kenya is just such a boiling pot for creativity as well. So looking to expand. So hopefully with the next open call, those artists will come out from those parts of Africa, because I left it open to whoever would apply. It just so happened that based on experience and where they were at in their careers, these were the best ones. And some of them have gone on to do exhibitions. So one of the mentees just did her first, hosted her first exhibition.
Nice.
Yeah, some of them are, they're organizing their public-facing personas. So they're really, really pushing in the right direction, and that's great.
Yeah, and what's the program called? Your program?
Yeah, so it's called FIA Mentor, which is Fashion Illustration Africa, FIA. So it's basically the FIA mentoring program. The hashtag is FIA Mentor. Yeah. So if you want to see what's going on Instagram, you can follow there.
Yeah. We can add a link to that as well.
Oh, thank you.
And just going back, you talked about just want to talk about the business side.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about mindset, and a lot of your Instagram, it's actually not just pretty pictures. Oh. There's a lot of deep wisdom there.
I can hope.
And also a mix of common sense, because common sense is not very common. And one of the things you said was your mindset determines your outcomes. So what do you mean by that?
I think when I was looking back at just what I've been able to achieve, a lot of it is just sheer grit. It's just grit and determination. It sounds funny to say, but it's really not about how talented you are. That's important, and that will come to the fore when it should. But really, I realized that the most successful artists are the artists who really think they can. They're the ones who take the risks. They're the ones who don't listen to naysayers. They're the ones who take rejection and then just toss it over their shoulder and keep going. It's mindset. I know so many talented artists that would draw circles around me who stopped because, I don't know, maybe they weren't getting the attention, or the jobs weren't coming quick and fast, or whatever it was. So I just think that up here is where a lot of it happens first. You have to be successful in there, and then it kind of shows up in the outside world. We're very much a reflection of our insides. So even now, because at every stage you will have your challenges, you will have the no's and the yeses. So even now I realize that, look, you have to really know why you're doing it and just hold on to that, because it's not always going to be easy to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I mean.
Okay, thank you. And how important is the business mindset to when working as a creative? Is there things that people, other than drawing and having the grit and talent, is there things that it's not obvious, but you need to be aware of when it comes to running as a
Yes.
business?
I think that's one underrated aspect of creativity. Number one, it's a very competitive industry. Okay, there's so many talented people, and now it's easier than ever to show that you're a talented person.
Yeah.
Anybody can open an Instagram page. Anybody can put their artwork up. You can get, Procreate or any of the apps for drawing. It's not as, you know, unreachable as it used to be. But that also means there's a lot of competition, and it also means that it's much harder for your voice to break through. Okay, and that's why I said talent isn't the most important thing. I think it's second. The first thing is really understanding that art is a business. Art is work. It's a career. So the same way you'd go into accounting and you'd have qualifications, you'd have to pass certain things, you'd have to go for placements, and it's the same thing with an art career. So why shouldn't you approach it with that mindset of, I need to grow, I need to learn as much as I can, I need to keep upskilling, I need to increase my knowledge, not just of whatever ecosystem you're in terms of fashion, but do you understand fashion from the Western perspective? Do you understand fashion from the Eastern perspective? Middle Eastern fashion is on fire. Do you know anything about it? So when you get that client come to you, they will ask you certain questions, and it could be make or break from the first conversation. So you really have to be somebody who can talk to anybody. And I think a lot of artists, especially if you're introverted, might struggle with that at the beginning. But you have your website to do the talking for you. You have your social media platforms. Always come with your best foot forward. I think a lot of artists don't understand that. Some people think be dressed to the nines. No, Banksy, we can't see him. Banksy is like one of my favorite case studies for artists who understand their persona, they understand their ethos, and he makes statements. He doesn't want to be seen. Now, not everybody can be a Banksy, but Banksy understands himself. If somebody tried to replicate that, they'd be like, why is he trying to be Banksy? So I think that real understanding of who my business is serving, what my business is about, the branding is the word I'm looking for. Okay, every business that's not an art business, we can say, we call all the big tech companies or whatever, they have a brand image. We know who they serve. A lot of artists just go, I'll just create art and it'll be great. No, that doesn't work. So I think that's why a lot of people make beautiful things, but they don't know how to show these beautiful things. They don't know how to market these beautiful things. And they just go, you know what, nobody cares. And they stop.
Right.
That lack of education, I think, in the way art works.
So you need to understand the market and what's in demand so that you can sell your services or your artwork to make money.
Exactly.
Okay. Just one more thing. You mentioned about some skills. Are there any unexpected skills that you had to learn, that you learned?
Yes.
Over the 10 years? Anything you thought?
I'm not going to lie. Unless you have some sort of, I don't know, trust fund or something, you literally will have to learn every tech-related skill. You're going to learn how to edit your own website. You're going to have to learn how to, photograph your work. Because sometimes, even if you're entering into a prize, you have to realize, is there too much light here? Is this the best way to position it? All of those little things, they're skills. Okay, you're going to have to learn how to reach out. Email manner. Oh my goodness, can we talk about email manner? Some people don't know how to write a really professional email. You can't just say, hi, I want to, and then you're even putting like text language in there. I know the world is moving on, but people will react to you the way you present yourself. So I had to learn a lot of that. Okay, always realizing you must be polite to your clients. Even if they're not very happy with what's happened, you can never, just basically be rude to a client, because they are the client, they are the paying client. Those little things, I try to drum this into whichever, like younger artists who ask me, how have you been in business this long? How have you been able to do this? It's little things like this. It's making sure that you have a very professional outlook, and you learn new skills. So things will change. You will have to learn how to, edit pictures and things like that. That's not an illustrator's job, but I have to learn it because it's, it's basically part of how I present my my work. So, for example, a cook. Yes, you make all the nice food, but now you're going to have to learn how to make that video and place that online so people can see you making that food. And if you can't do it yourself, then you have to pay somebody to do it.
Yeah.
Even if you pay somebody to do it, you have to tell the person what your vision is. So they're not making the exact same video they made for 10 people before you.
Yeah.
You have your unique eye, isn't it? So there are many things that come with business, but you just have to get started. Don't be daunted by the fact that you have to learn many things, but know that you have to learn many things.
Yeah. Okay. Just thinking on the business side, is there a typical day? Is there an approach to your working day? Like
I think I'm
certain hours only, or
I've had seasons. I think life is full of ebbs and flows, and you have to just really adapt to what life is. I think earlier on, I would devote many hours of the day, but I have children now, so I can't do that as much as I would like to. I also really used to be like a night owl, and I would and luckily, because I work digitally a lot of the times, I don't need natural light. So I would spend hours just, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. I don't do that as much. I'm I'm a morning person now. So I will, if I need to do a school run, I do a school run. But that 9 a.m. to around about 1 p.m. is my happy hour. It's like, it's like my most creative time of day. And that's when I really do my, brainstorming, thinking about client work, doing whatever it is I need to do. And the evenings are very much more head work where I'm thinking about things. But the actual creating of the art it's like a 9 to 5 now, to be honest. I do work the regular hours. But if you're an artist and you're watching this, you have to think about what works for you.
Yeah.
And when you listen to all
yeah.
things like, think about your natural self. Think about what works best for you. Some people like to work at their own pace. Some people need to be driven. Some people need a schedule, like everything's all lined out. I'm going to do this at this time. I go with the flow, and whenever that inspiration takes me, I will stop what I'm doing and quickly get that idea down. But it's usually about 9 to 3 p.m.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. So that's your artist side and working professional artist. I just want to ask about the teaching side. So where do you actually teach, or where have you taught, shall I say?
That's quite a new side of me. In the last, say, 2 years, I've been very lucky. Been asked to teach at the Courtauld Institute of Art as a visiting, creative. So gave a talk, also had a workshop, which was really great. And then also the Courtauld Gallery, which is in Somerset House, and they house some of like the top artists in the world, dead and alive. So I've been very lucky to also host drawing sessions there, fashion illustration masterclasses there, and I think most regularly is at the V&A. I've also done primary schools. Like literally, I will go into schools because I'm an author. I wrote a children's book. So I've done book readings. I love to get children drawing because that was me. Okay. And the more you egg them on and say, that's important. Yes, that doodle behind your book is something great. You're making sure that gift doesn't die. It doesn't get buried under all the common sense. I want to be a nurse. I want to be a doctor. That's great. We need those people, but we also need artists. So I've been going into primary schools and little groups. So it's big and small.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah. So do you prefer to teach or to be a student?
I'm not going to lie, it's a hard question. I really love to teach because I think that everybody's unique. So I have a unique perspective and nobody else does, right? And I can impart that, especially with my culture. I live in the UK, but I understand the African culture a lot, and I can bring that's fresh to them. That's something they've never really experienced. But I also like to be the student because that you have to have a thirst and a zest for learning. Don't ever feel like you know everything. And that's why I love to follow other artists and just marvel at what they do, because what comes naturally to me for them is difficult. And then what they do naturally, I'm like, oh my goodness, how did you do that? So for me, it's both sides. And I find that in my teaching sessions, I'm learning from all of the students, because they have strengths that I don't have. Some of them might be hobbyists, but they're very good hobbyists. I'll put it that way. So I'm always learning, even when I'm teaching.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Mm.
That's really good. And you create all your own courses, right?
Yes. So the curriculum is created by me, and I think my mum was a teacher, or is a teacher, retired now. So I think maybe I have that. I've seen that happen in front of me for the longest time. So for me, it's not weird, but I really enjoy it, because literally they give you a blank slate and say, fill this with knowledge that you think people would want to have. So I'm drawing on a decade of experience. I'm drawing on my cultural heritage, what I've learned, in the time I've been an illustrator as well. So it's a lot of fun. In fact, you find out that there's too much to cram into the session. So you're trying to just, pick the really important things. So for example, at the V&A, there was Africa Fashion.
Yeah.
And it was literally an explosion of African creativity.
Yeah.
Everybody who'd done something really worthwhile in the last 50 years was represented in some way or form. So for me, trying to whittle that down to a classroom was really difficult. But luckily, they got to see the exhibition and we came back and talked about it, so it was easier. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And I was just wondering, if someone's in Africa, anywhere, South Africa, Zambia, something, they want to do one of your courses, can they get it online, or is it?
I know. Now this is like a push to do what I know I have to do. So that's in the pipeline, an actual course on fashion illustration from me, because it does not exist, especially for people who live on the continent. I think they are all learning just as they go along. Here, we're so lucky in the West, and I think we take it for granted how everything's at our fingertips. And obviously, right now, you can go on Domestika, I'll plug them again. You can go on YouTube and Skillshare, and all those things are, available. But is it tailored for them? No, it's not. That's the truth. And nobody else is going to do the work. We all do the work. Hopefully the African brands will come alongside and see the importance of what we're doing and then contribute to that. So for right now, no, I don't have courses, but that is actively like my next step. Literally, I don't know if you took a peek in my diary or something, but that's what's on the card. So hopefully you follow, and you will know when it's been announced. That's for all of you watching. But for now, there's lots of stuff on the internet if you want to learn.
Yeah. But people might want to learn from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just moving on, because you have quite a few businesses, don't you? You're teaching, you're artist, and you're mentoring.
Mentoring, writing books. It's a lot.
Yeah, let's talk about the books quickly. What is it? What's the book about?
So it's about food, because I'm a foodie. I'm a big foodie. And also my grandmother, who passed last year, she was the chef. Okay. And she was just, if you came to her house, it would be food everywhere. Okay. She loved to feed people in large groups. It gave her joy. So I'd already had a book idea in my mind for the longest time. So I brought one along. It's called Puff Puff. Nice. Yes. And it's just about our food culture, African food culture. It's a street food. So the best way to describe it is a donut, but it's not a donut. Trust me, it's not the same thing. It has a softer, fluffier texture, and the way it's made is it's a bit of a wetter dough than a donut. So it can't really be shaped the way donuts can be shaped and cut and then fried. But yeah, it's basically something that will appear at every African celebration. Basically, you know how in the UK, if you don't offer somebody like tea and biscuits, it's like rude. For us, it's like, where is the puff puff? Like, guys, give me some malt or some Coke and give me puff puff, or I don't know, anything else that we Africans like. So I just thought that it's a good way for children in diaspora to kind of learn about their heritage. It's a recipe book, but in rhyme. And then we have all the countries at the back, because we all call it something different. And you know the way people are going, oh, there's unity, jollof rice now, the Ghana versus Nigerian jollof wars.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. I promise you, I found these wars, puff puff wars, I call them, on social media, because if you look at this, you can see where all the countries are. There's so many countries around Africa.
Oh, wow.
Some people put egg in their mix. Some people put spices. So I'll show it to you again. So Nigeria, Ghana, Mikate. They've got different names for it. Congo, Cameroon.
What are the
Guinea.
names? Just tell us some of the names.
Okay, so let me read some of them out. And all of you from those countries, if I say it wrong, please forgive me. So Nigeria, we call it puff puff. Ghana is bofrot. Okay, DRC Congo, that's Mikate. Kaimati in Kenya. Yovo Doko in Benin Republic. Egypt calls it Lukmat. We've got Mandazi in Tanzania. Legemat in Sudan. Kala in Liberia. And this is just one food, but the same thing. And, you know, like different ways that people cook it. And this is my recipe, but I promise you, probably 1,005 recipes.
Yeah.
Okay, and some people like it spicy. Us Nigerians like it spicy. So what I did was I made like little characters. Anybody knows the Scotch bonnet? That sort of thing. I'm a real. There's a real childish enjoyment of the arts for me. So that was right up my street. I had a blast doing it.
Yeah.
And I published it last year, and it actually was shortlisted for a writing prize, which for me was shocking, because I would never have considered myself an author. Drawing, yes, but not the authorship. Yeah. So more of that is coming.
Oh, good. I know you need to have a business mindset, but in terms of creating good work, how important is the spirit of play?
So important.
To creative.
I think if you lose it, it starts to show. A lot of people are, when it's not the job, when it's your hobby, it's like your place of escape. So you go there and you're like, oh, finally I can be myself, I can draw, I can do whatever I want to do. Once you just put that job tag on it, there's so much pressure that comes. And I think it takes away the playfulness of it. Now, if you see a little child playing with Legos, they're not obsessing about, oh my goodness, what am I going to make today? I hope the Legos will come out right. Do I have enough colours? Nobody says that. They're just playing. They literally are just enjoying the fact that there's Legos. Look what I can do, mummy. Look what I can do, daddy. It's natural. I know it happens because it is what it is. But we really have to resist the fact that it's my day job and I have to perform. So I've gone through like illustration blocks. About 2 years ago was the time I just really wasn't creating anything new, because nothing sparked that interest. I was really stressed with client work. There was a barrage of that. And then you're supposed to be grateful that you have work, because there's some illustrators going, oh, I wish I could do what she's doing. So you don't want to be ungrateful, but you're also realizing this is not fun. This is not interesting. So I've learned to have side projects that are going on just for me. Puff Puff was completely my idea. It wasn't anybody's sort of like commission or anything. Now, there's a lot of things going up on my Instagram which are, you know, just me enjoying portraiture. I just really like that girl's face, so I'm going to do a portrait of her. I'm not doing. I'm making sure it's about 80-20 or 70-30. Play, just have fun. Try out a new app. Try out some new watercolors. Sketch. I got myself a new sketchbook, really good one. You know, buy a new pen. You really have to be able to play around, not knowing what you're going to find. Don't obsess about what the artwork will be. The discovery is part of everything. So I think that's how the best cakes come to be, and people just discover that, ooh, that goes really well with that. You're playing around. Yeah.
Interesting. So on your journey, you talked about illustration block. What are some of the obstacles that you sort of had to overcome, and what do you have any techniques you can share with people, so that if they are having the same obstacle, and you know, how can they come out the other end?
Okay, so this is my opinion. This is not backed by science. I promise you, illustration block is an emotion. It's an emotion blocking your creativity. Now, that emotion could be fear. It could be anger. It could be feelings of unworthiness or a self-esteem thing.
Yeah.
Whatever that emotion is, you have to figure out what it is and then deal with it.
Yeah.
And it's like, why is the tap blocked?
Yeah. So.
A tap is blocked because there's something stuck in the pipes. We often seem to think that that doesn't apply to creativity. Writer's block is not some nice phrase that people just came up with. No, it literally is a block. So there's something within your new ecosystem or your environment or the way you're approaching things that is blocking the flow of your creativity. So I like to tell artists, you need to shake things up quite severely, change your routine completely, change the physical space in which you're drawing. And I mean, you need to get a new studio, or you need to draw at a different time, or if you've been completely digital, start doing more tactile work, again, using your hands. If you've been tactile, then go into digital and enjoy that new experience. So it's really about focusing on what's wrong, what's really wrong, because you can't separate work from your life, from the political landscape. There are many things that clog us up as creatives. So I always focus on, maybe I just need a break, step away from it for a bit. When you find out that you miss it again, then go back.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. It just made me think of another question. What do you prefer, iPad and stylus, or pencil and paper?
That's such a hard question. Why did you ask me that one? I know as a digital artist, primarily, I should say, of course, it's my iPad. But I like them for different reasons. For example, on June 14th, I'm going to June 19th. I'll double check. But at the Courtauld, there's this, they do like a summer of art, and it's like really late, so about 6 to 10. And I'm going to be in the great rooms called the LVMH Great Room, surrounded by beautiful artwork and sketching with people I've never met before. But we're not using iPads, and we're not using digital styluses or anything like that. Literally, it's papers and pens and markers and all the lovely things, and models, live models in the room doing some figure drawing. Now, I think that there's something about just drawing in its very raw, natural state that brings people together. The problem with it is you can't really Control Z or just, undo. So for client work, I really enjoy the digital form of things, because I can change things up. If the client doesn't like that, it doesn't matter. But if you're working with watercolors and they don't like that painting, all of those hours are wasted. So I'm really thankful for digital art, because it really has changed my workflow. It's given me a lot of creative freedom, and I've given my my clients even more options, because now I can change things. So I love them for different reasons. If it's like really enjoying art as a mode of expression, I will still reach for my sketchbook and a pencil and a pen. I love fine liner pens, just no color, just black and white sketching figures. But then if it's client work, thank you, iPad. Every day of the week. Every day of the week. Yes.
Good. Well, look, I just want to ask you just a few more questions. I was just curious about travel. You seem to be into some lovely places. You seem to be quite particular about Paris.
Yes.
And there was you went to Miami as well. Or Miami, as we say in Nigeria.
I know.
I mean, how important is travel to creative soul?
I mean, I think, I'll be honest, I know it's not accessible to everybody.
Yeah.
Even just having a passport from Africa, you'd have to go through visa queues and things like that. So I think when you're British, you can just hop on a plane.
Yeah.
And be away. But I think even within West Africa, there's still visa-free travel within that. So even just experiencing those countries is important. I think for me, travel really expands your cultural understanding. And I think people underestimate how much art is a vehicle of culture. So it literally is the way we understand culture, whether that's music, it's art, the novels that we read, the films that we watch. All these things are influenced by what we've seen. And if you've not seen much, your mind will be very small. So I realized very quickly that I needed to travel just to expand my mind,
Yeah.
meet new people. It makes you a lot less judgmental. It makes you a lot more tolerant, and you're just really able to understand humanity. And then just beauty, of course. Experiencing things like even just going to Miami. There's an energy in the air I've not really experienced anywhere else. A zest for life. I love
That you
Paris
can't
just
see
because
in a
it's
book.
special to me.
And Paris, what? Sorry.
Paris is just special to me for like
Oh,
emotional reasons. I got engaged in Paris. I'm
Ah.
also like a serious francophile. Like literally, I've been trying to learn French for the last 10 years. It's not really working very well. So I love the food. I love the fashion. I love the clothes. How fashionable the women are. And it really is true. Just the way that they take things at a very calm pace, and they really believe in that joy of living. It's true. When you go there, you really do realize that is the way it is. And I love pastry. Let's be honest. That's the reason I go there. It's the bakeries in the morning.
Well,
You can't really find better
okay,
anywhere
yeah.
else.
They do have the best croissants in France, I gotta say.
Yes. I mean, British baking is great, but I mean, the French know how to do a breakfast.
Yeah.
So yes.
But if you're in Africa and you can't travel, how would you get your inspiration?
I mean, Lagos is home, so I think for me, even within Lagos, there's so many places you like. Literally, Ekpe is all the way down on the island. If you go, you see little villages that you've never seen before. Africans don't know Africa as well as other people know Africa. It's really sad. I'm one of them. I've only been to, apart from Nigeria, home country, I've only been to what is it? Benin Republic. Yes. So that's Cotonou.
Yeah.
I've never been to Ghana. Yes. I've never been to Ghana. Not been to Kenya. My husband's a lot better traveled than I am on the African continent. So how dare I boast that I've been to Dubai and I've been to the Middle East and I know all these other places, but I've not been to, all those nations. And you realize how different the food culture is. The cuisine is very different. The music is beautiful. So I would say, look, start where you are. Don't think about travel as I have to hop on a plane necessarily. It could be a car trip, a road trip. So if we can do like European road trips, why can't we do African road trips, right? So that's one of my, it's like on my, I know it's different because there are some like security issues and there are lots of things that make it not as relaxed a process as it is here. But I think we can still do it if we really want to.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Any sort of final remarks? Somebody who's seen this and go, "Oh my God, I love Yéga. I want to be a fashion illustrator." Can they find you somewhere? Find out more information about you somewhere, or
Sure.
what would you suggest they take as a next action? So they watch this. What do you think that they can do next?
I think what I would say is take some time to really figure out your why, like what that why is, and then write it down because you will have to literally go back to that a lot of times along, in the course of your career or whatever it is you want to do, even if it's just being a hobbyist. But if you do want to be a fashion illustrator, I mean, you can follow me on Instagram. I will plug my Instagram. It's Yéga Illustration. You can also follow Fashion Illustration Africa. It's less about me and more about the art, the genre of illustration. So it's very Africa focused as well. So that's Fashion Illustration Africa on Instagram. My website is www.studioyega.com. So with that, you'll know everything going on with me, where I'm going to be, events, workshops, all of that. But I would say, just keep learning, really. Just keep learning. Stay curious about the things that you enjoy, and don't let people pigeonhole you and tell you what you can and cannot do. Because, I mean, literally at the end of the day, you determine your own outcomes in life by what you pursue. So if you keep chasing it, good things will come. Because I didn't plan all of these institutions and magazines and whatnot. I just kept sketching, and literally it happened to me. Okay, and I just took one day at a time. So I would say because there's so many talented young people on the continent, I say just keep sketching, keep drawing, take opportunities, and create opportunities for yourself as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, by having online social media account, for example.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
And are there any illustrators that people can look at?
Oh yeah.
That you recommend?
So many. I'll state a few of my favorites. So I really, really love David Downton. He's a bit of a living legend. Jason Brooks as well. He's done really, really amazing things, especially in the area of digital art. He was really a pioneer in that, and still creating beautiful work right now. And the great thing is I've managed to meet a lot of these artists, and they're lovely people. Bill Donovan is another great one. And on the continent, Lean Kid. Lean Kid is one of the, I think, finest fashion illustrators coming out of Nigeria. We have a lot of Phoebe Uma. She's from Kenya. So these are artists who are doing fantastic things, and I think deserve the spotlight as well. And just being able to see that a lot of the names that people would know globally would not be from the continent. It would be from the West or from Asia and whatnot. And I just feel like it's Africa's time now for our creatives to kind of shine. And I really appreciate you for, you know, the podcast and what you're doing and who you're focusing on, because there's not enough of that. I think being the only African illustrator in the room is really old. So
yeah, I love what you said. It's really old.
Yeah.
I'm over it. Let's get more of us.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fantastic. It's a lovely answer. Full. I like that.
Thank you.
I just want to say, well, thank you for your service. I think what you're doing is extraordinary, and I just said I love all the wisdom, the little advice you give. You're very real. You know, you don't get overwhelmed by social media. You always tell people it's almost if you don't like your social media. It's almost like, look, I just use this to get my artwork
it's
out.
It's a tool.
I don't compare myself to people's lives. You know, it's just the highlights. It's not the movie.
Literally.
You know? So yeah, thank you for being so positive and encouraging on your Instagram, and keeping it very, very real about how challenging it is, but also how fulfilling it is, and and how you got to keep your feet on the ground, and just your sense of gratitude is extraordinary. You know,
thank you.
It's really nice to see. I thought it was gonna be really fluffy, fashiony kind of a Instagram account, but there's a lot of depth to it.
Oh, and, you can try.
Yeah, and I felt like collecting some of your sayings. They're really good. But
all the Yéga-isms. I really
Yoga-isms.
Yes.
Yeah. Yéga-ism, Yéga-wisdom.
Yeah, it's just literally the things that keep me going. So I'll put a bit more on my website. Check out my website. There's a few more on there.
Absolutely. And check out your beautiful design for the abaya that you designed. That's beautiful. Yellow. Beautiful.
Yes, the silk one. Yes. That was translated from a digital oil painting onto silk cloth and printed in Thailand. So it was like a global collaboration, but I really love the outcome.
No, it's beautiful. So yeah, you seem to be influenced by, you got fashion from your father, you got food from your grandmother, and you got teaching from your mother. So
wow.
It sounds like those influences at home have led to...
That's amazing. I never thought about it that way.
Well, I was listening. So yeah, so it's good that sounds like you were made for this. This is supposed to be your path. And do you ever look back and thank yourself for the things you've done?
I think now I do, because I think in the years before I was so busy chasing something, the next brand, the next dream, the next success. At a point you realize it doesn't really matter how many brands I work with after this. It's not going to make me any more satisfied. There will always be a new goal. But I think this is probably last year when I really just thought, wow, look, you've come far. Okay, you had all the odds against you. You didn't have the art education. You didn't have, the artsy friends. I wasn't an insider in the industry or anything like that.
What you were marketed for,
and
right?
Exactly. Literally. So it's the sort of thing where there was nothing to recommend me to say you will succeed at illustration, except that I love to draw, and I just kept doing it. So I thank the little kid in school who would always doodle or sketch her friends or make little cartoons in the classroom, because that's where it starts. That's the birthplace of whatever it is you will be. So I'm really happy that I didn't let life sort of just, snuff that out and make it a forgotten memory, because how I got started sketching was I would see my sister sketching. We were big on pageants, Miss World, Miss Universe, and all the dresses coming down, and my sister would draw a Miss Nigeria and a Miss whatever it was, and I'd sit right by her. She's about 4 years older than me, and I'd draw with her. Now, she stopped drawing, and I think she fell in love with books,
Yeah.
and writing and reading, and I just kept going. So I thank myself for not stopping, and that's why I said, look, take every day as it comes, but just keep that dream alive, whatever it is. Keep pushing, and good things will come. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. That's a beautiful place to finish off. So I really appreciate your time. God bless you.
Oh, I've had a lovely time talking to you. You're so easy to talk to as well.
Thank you. Well, you used to listen to. You have a lot to share.
Oh, thank you.
And yeah, your inspiration and your practical inspiration as well. You know, and you're a good person. So I hope people will follow you on Instagram and you know, follow you, copy you, and go to your next teaching, which is, I think it's Miss Naomi Campbell.
June 22nd, Victoria and Albert Museum in South Kensington. Yes, I'm going to be sketching Naomi Campbell. And that's when it opens. It's the opening weekend when the exhibition opens to the public. So very exciting stuff. And I hope to see some of you guys there.
Yeah. So you're going to be teaching there, or you're...
Yes. And actually be teaching a workshop on the day.
Yeah, okay.
So based on her life and her career.
Absolutely. So go to the Victoria and Albert Museum website for that one. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. God bless you. And hopefully speak to you again soon.
See you. Thank you for having me.
Bye. Don't go yet.